All right, guys, we are live. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Kelvechio. So, Atletico Madrid won, Arsenal won, and in some ways, I feel like we got robbed, right? I think it was a fair result based on the chances Atletico Madrid had. But just looking back at the game, especially the big penalty decisions, feels like we could have gotten that win, right? I think we had the better of the first half. They definitely came back in the second half, but we finished off the second half the better team, especially after the subs that Mikel made. So in this video, we're going to look at the subs, the tactical setup, the approach to the game. Yes, it wasn't beautiful. It wasn't free-flowing football. It wasn't the goal fest of the night before between Bayern and PSG, but it was an improved performance by Arsenal. I just want to start off by saying that I want to give the boys and Arteta credit for a really solid performance, even though it wasn't get off your seat type football. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't end to end. But of course, this is how our entire season has been, right? So we can't expect all of a sudden for them to flip the switch and then change the tactics completely. So let's dive into it, right? So this game, like I said, was very efficient. We've been using that word a lot for Arsenal this season. They've done a really, really good job. Um, like I said, I am optimistic. I'm encouraged by the performance because it showed a level of maturity. And I think when it comes to away performances in the Champions League, you have to give Arsenal and Arteta a lot of credit for the way he sets the team up. So far, we have gone undefeated in the Champions League, right? The only team to be undefeated in the Champions League. And it would be remarkable if we get to the final undefeated and we win it. I think that's going to be a new record. So, like I said, optimistic, encouraged. I'm not overly excited by what I saw in terms of the play. I think Madueke had some flashes, but still it's the same issues in terms of handbrake up, pretty reserved, pretty tentative. The number of times Martinelli could have gone at his defender one on one and just played the ball sideways or backwards was really disappointing. Like I said, Madueke played well in flashes, just not enough. Saka came on, looked bright. Jesus came on, a lot of good performances, and I'm going to call it out as well. Like I said, I'm encouraged by the performance, but the big thing is we couldn't really impose our game on Atletico. You're probably saying to be expected, right? Because we are playing away, they're playing at home, intense atmosphere. They have really good quality players. Yes, yes, and yes. But I feel like there was just something missing from Arsenal. Like we could have gone for it some more. We could have literally come out of that game winning by 2 or 3 goals if we went for it because they were there for the taking. Atletico has not been playing well. They're not a very impressive team, even though they beat Barcelona. Yeah, they can pull out some good results, but just the setup and the players that we had, and this is my one beef with Odegaard, right? As a captain, I've never seen a captain who's subbed so often, right? He doesn't lead by example as a captain on the pitch. He's not the best player. He's far from our best player actually, and he just doesn't inspire with his performances. Of course, he got subbed, and then Declan Rice took on the armband. But that's my issue with Odegaard, right? If we had a better quality number 10, and you saw that when Eze came on, when Eze came off the bench, the game switched. He was able to find those pocket of spaces. He was able to, you know, play the ball forward quickly, and the game just flipped when Eze came on. So that tells you something. Odegaard is too passive, too negative, too conservative, doesn't drive us forward, doesn't lead by example. And like if you've been watching my videos, you know my take on Odegaard. I think he should be sold. We should get a new captain and a new attacking midfielder. If Eze doesn't start in that position, I would give it to Eze or Nwaneri who comes back and try to compete for that number 10 role. But I think this team has gone past Odegaard in terms of his personal input in the team, right? But like I said, I don't want to be too negative. Like, let's give the guys credit. So credit to the boys. They've done really, really well. I was not too happy with the lineup. I just want to say that from the beginning. When I saw the lineup, I saw there was no Eze in the lineup. and the starting lineup. No Saka in the starting lineup. I was a bit disappointed, but I get it, right? Those guys have knocks. They're coming back from injuries. Eze was substituted on the weekend. So I get it why Eze couldn't start. I get it why Saka couldn't start. And the front three of Martinelli, Gyökeres, and Madueke, we've seen this front three many, many times, and it hasn't worked, right? It has not worked. Just because the ability to beat your guy one on one, 1v1, Martinelli is lacking confidence. Madueke is high in confidence, but skill level is lacking, right? So he's not a finished article. So that front three, which primarily consists of runners, guys who want to just put their head down and run, against Atletico, who did not press too much and they kind of sat deep, it didn't work, right? Especially with our guys lacking the skills to really beat the defender and make something happen. So this game needed a Trossard, in my opinion. But of course, hindsight is always 2020, right? So I don't want to criticize Mikel too much, but I did think we were missing something in the final third. And I would have loved to see someone like a Saka or Trossard starting just to kind of balance the front three out, provide more service to Gyökeres, because of course he went most of the game without being fed properly because Odegaard plays the ball backwards and our wingers didn't really impose themselves on the game, right? What am I saying? So to summarize, in terms of the starting lineup, especially our attacking players, we lacked creativity, right? Of course, like I said, that was remedied when Eze came on. You could see he brought something, he had that spark, but we lacked creativity. We had decent ball retention, especially in the first half, with Odegaard dropping deep, receiving the ball, taking the turn, and really progressing us. So we had decent ball retention, but it still wasn't enough, wasn't Arsenal level. And my big thing is, and even before the game, I said I do not really see what Subamendi brings to the team. Guys, I'm not a hater. I think Subamendi started the season really, really well, but he played more advanced than Declan Rice today, right? He played almost like the eight, but it wasn't a true eight. It was like a hybrid eight. Like he kind of was in between. So he wasn't box to box. Declan Rice sat back, played a six, and just in front of the defenders, and that works really well because he was able to clean up a lot of the mess. But I don't really know what Subamini brings. Like I said, I could be wrong. If you think I'm wrong, correct me. Like let me know in the comments below. But I just don't get it. I don't see what Subamini brings, and I think his position needs to be looked at, right? We need someone who's more confident, who has more composure in the ball, has more chemistry with the front players. But that's a future problem that we need to solve, right? But overall, the team played really well. I think the guys worked really hard, especially in the first half. They stretched Atletico, they pinned them back early. And we were like the dominant team for most of the game, right? Barring, I guess, 10 or 15 minutes in the second half when Atletico came out, kind of shifted gears. They got the crowd behind them. Griezmann hit the bar. They had some really good chances. Lookman should have scored, I think, at least two goals. And then that Ben White position, I'm going to leave that for later. But we are definitely missing Jurian Timber because Ben White, he keeps getting found out in the right back position, which is why I believe he's going to be sold this summer. We're going to be moving on from Ben White because that position is now Jurian Timber. We probably need one backup person, either Mosquera or someone else to compete for that right back position. But let's move on to the tactical tweaks that Mikel made today, which I want to give him credit because I really do think it worked out really well, right? So we saw Declan Rice playing as a number six, right? So his role in a deeper midfield position really, really worked out. But that meant that Zumamende was pushed higher, right? Zubi was pushed higher, almost to play like an eight, right? But he didn't really impact the game, right? I felt like he went missing too many times. And like I said, I feel like Zubi and Declan are similar. They're not the same. But whatever Zubamende is good at, Declan Rice does it better, right? And then whatever Declan Rice can do, Zubamende can't do. He can't play the eight. He's not as good as Declan. He's not as mobile. So that's why I felt like we need someone who can partner Declan Rice effectively. I would have put on Norgard, for example, or try something creative. Maybe play an Odegaard deeper or and then play Eze up front in the number 10 role. But this is a problem that Mikel needs to sort out because this is what's really keeping this team from progressing and being a better team because we don't have the chemistry between Declan and Zubamendi because they're too similar. And Zubamendi doesn't really give you anything extra because Declan can do it, and I think he's a better six and he's a better eight. So, like I said, I could be biased, but I don't really see what Zubamendi brings to the table, right? Which also highlights and shows the value of Thomas Partey because Thomas Partey was so good at controlling the ball under pressure and getting out and releasing the pressure, especially after we pressed, right? So, like I said, first half, wonderful. I mean, Arsenal. I mean, we were on course to win the game, right? I feel like we nullified the crowd, we nullified the early pressure. It wasn't just about surviving, even though the first 10 minutes was pretty rough. But we were able to settle the game. We kept the ball. We kept the stadium quiet. And that is not an easy task, right? Just ask Barcelona, ask the teams who've gone to Atletico. Like it's a tough stadium. I mean, they have really good players and they set up really well. And looking at the first goal, I think the first goal was deserved. It was a penalty, in my opinion. Jokeres was fouled in the box. He got barged from behind. He was about to control the ball and then set up for a shot. So it was contact from behind. Yes, it was soft, but I think it was a penalty all day long, just because he got pushed, put off balance, and he couldn't, of course, take his shot to score. And of course, Jokeres is known for being a really good finisher with penalties, and he did really, really well. He scored a penalty. Great job there. Then the second half came around, right? The second half is where I think the game really, really changed. And again, I'm going back to Odegaard. As a captain, I feel like when you realize the momentum has shifted, you do something different. And Odegaard, in my opinion, he doesn't lead from the front. He doesn't lead on the pitch. Yes, he organizes the press and he tells players where to go and when to go on the trigger. He does that. But in terms of recognizing the game state and impacting the game in real time, he doesn't do that, right? Because he can't, because he doesn't impose himself. He does not impose himself on the game. And this is why I believe Declan Rice is rightfully the true captain of this Arsenal team, especially from a midfield perspective, because he can change the game and control the game from the midfield, which Odegaard does not do. So the game shifted in the second half, right? It shifted because a couple of things happened. One, we couldn't get out, which again highlights my issue with Zubamendi. When we are under pressure, we don't have that midfielder who can then take the ball under pressure, allow us to progress, and then connect the midfield and the attack. Zubamendi as an eight could not and doesn't do it most of the time, right? That's where he's lacking. He's just, I'm not saying he cannot get there, but right now he doesn't give you what you need, right? Number two, Atletico raised their intensity. That was pretty clear from the off. Like the second half, they started to sprint some more. They were high pressing. The momentum like visibly changed in the game, which led to their penalty, right? In my opinion, soft penalty. In Europe, in the Champions League, we see the referees give it. Same thing happened last night, of the previous day, with the game of Bayern Munich and the penalty on Alfonso Davis, right? Bayern Munich versus PSG. In Europe, we know it's given as a penalty, but in the Premier League, for example, it's not a penalty because the ball literally hit his knee, then it deflected onto his arm. How could you give that? Right? That's crazy. You can't give that as a penalty, but in Europe, we know it's given. So I don't fault Ben White for that penalty at all. He was in an awkward position, in my opinion, but of course, he was kind of stooping down and trying to position his body to block the shot. Soft pen, his body. How can you blame him? Yes, his body shape was not quite right. His arms were a bit away from his body, but it's also in a natural position. When you're trying to crouch, you're trying to get into position, you're not going to have your arms behind your back, right? But it is what it is. There's other margins in the Premier League, in the Champions League, in the highest form of the game. Now, this is my take on Ben White. All right. And I'm not trying to target any individual player, but I've seen this performance over the last month or two since Ben White has come back into the team. He's been at fault for many goals, right? Individual mistakes, the game against Southampton, um, even the game against Man City in the Carabao Cup. Like Ben White has been exposed so often, and Ben White is actually known for his defensive ability, but he's been culpable for so many goals, right? He's been struggling defensively. He doesn't look as good going forward from an attacking perspective. And then most of the time he looks off the pace. He looks like he's carrying a knock. He doesn't look fit. And Ben White's performance is literally costing Arsenal right now, right? So I think he's probably the best of the worst choices that we have at right back because Timber is out with an injury. But if Mikel had a better option, he would have played someone else, right? We know Mosquera has played there in the past, but he's really not a right back. He's like a fish out of water. But I think when the games are really, really tight and you're trying to keep a clean sheet, you may have to consider starting Mosquera over Ben White because Ben White's performances of late have been really shocking. Like I said, Ademola Lookman could have scored 2 or 3 goals tonight, right? He just didn't take his chances, and all of that came from Ben White's side. Ben White has been shocking in terms of his performances. Not targeting him, not singling him out, but just calling it for what it is. Um, which eventually led to him being subbed off too, right? I think Mosquero came on, in my opinion, a bit too late. Arteta should have made that sub earlier on when he realized Ben White was struggling, but he did make the sub, right? To his credit. Then he also brought in Eze for Odegaard, which again changed the game because Odegaard, like I said, so often this season, his performance was just disappointing, right? He doesn't give you anything going forward. He doesn't give you much defensively. He lost the ball a few times, just being pressed and just not being aware, not being sharp enough. Odegaard was just shocking again. And to say that about your captain week in, week out tells you so much, right? I think we should move on from Odegaard, have him sold in the summer. Because when Eze came on, you saw a different Arsenal, right? We upped our game. We looked more threatening, just better going forward. That's what Eze brings, right? He doesn't drop as deep. He doesn't get involved as much. But I think that forces the team to move forward and then for our players like Declan to get on the ball and kind of find those key passes, right? So Eze is our guy, right? I think he has that wow factor. He can produce the magic. He can score out of nothing. He can score individual brilliant goals. He can do wonderful passes as well. Could I say more, right? Eze is a different level. He's an impact player. He has good tight control. He has good confidence. He's creative on the ball. And more than anything, which is something you cannot say about Odegaard. Eze takes responsibility. He is a guy who wants to make things happen, right? In our previous seasons, that guy has been Saka, but when Saka has been struggling with injuries, but Eze looks like he just wants to make something happen going forward. And you cannot say the same for an Odegaard, right? Who literally just shrugs off the responsibilities. He just passes the ball on and he expects someone else to make it happen. And I think in the past that's been okay because Saka has stepped up every single time. But when someone like Saka is injured and he's carried a burden for so long, you see the drop off, right? Because Madueke cannot produce what Saka does or used to produce. So when Odegaard just shrugs off the responsibility and passes the baton without actually doing anything, Arsenal suffer. And that's why our attack has been really poor this season because we've seen a drop off with Saka, especially because of injuries. Martinelli has not been producing the same numbers. Odegaard, big, a lot of injuries this season and just not been performing. And the only one who's been really performing at a high level offensively is Eze, right? Gyökeres to a certain extent as well, because he's on 19 goals for the season, and we've been crying out saying we need a 20-goal striker. We've gotten him, but we could still get some more from Gyökeres, right? So let's touch on the other subs as well. So Jesus came on. He's been underutilized a lot this season, especially since coming back from injury. But I think he was solid, really good, intelligent player. He helped us retain the ball. In my opinion, Jesus will be sold this summer. I think this is his last season at Arsenal. I mean, he had a pretty good run, but he's really been plagued by injuries, right? We never really saw the best of Jesus, and this team has really moved on from him. Saka, when he came on, quality. He had some really iffy moments as well in terms of just losing the ball, loose touches, the rustiness. You could see the match fitness wasn't quite there. But in his 22 minutes on the pitch, Saka literally had the most dribbles of any player, and he only played 22 minutes. So that tells you about Martinelli's performance. It tells you about Madueke's performance. It tells you that Saka is a level above, right? Trossard, when he came on, I think Trossard was okay. He did have some dodgy moments, especially when he played in our own half, trying to dribble, fake, and make space, and doing a lot of twists and turns in our own half. Dangerous, getting dispossessed a few times. Um, didn't really do anything going forward. So I would say not even okay. I would say disappointing performance from Trossard. Very selfish in his approach play. Very just kind of slow down the attack way too much. And I think you could see why Arteta decided to start Martinelli over Trossard because Trossard really looks out of sorts right now. Um, let's go down to the big decision, right? What this video is primarily about. Was it a penalty? Was Eberich is a foul in the box? And should Arsenal have gotten a penalty? And the answer is most definitely 100%, 2000% yes. We should have had a penalty. The fact that the referee took 13 or 14 different attempts just to rewatch the incident, that tells you it was not a clear and obvious error, right? If that call was, for example, if an Atletico Madrid player was fouling the box, I can guarantee you, right? So just change the jerseys. If imagine as they played for Atletico, I can guarantee you that that penalty would have stood just because they were playing at home and the crowd pressure. I think the referee was weak. The referee crumbled under the pressure, and because he was sent to the screen rather than stick with his original decision because there was contact. Rather than stick with his original decision, the referee crumbled under the pressure and he overturned the penalty. So, in my opinion, very clearly, it was a penalty. Arsenal should have gotten a penalty, which most likely would have led to a goal, and we would have left that game leading by at least one goal, right? The question is, was the contact enough? Was it minimal? Was it soft? And does it justify a penalty? Yes, it was minimal, it was soft, but anywhere else on the pitch, it's a foul. In the box, in my opinion, it's a foul. It is a penalty as he got there first, right? And even though it would have been a soft penalty, it still was a penalty because it is a foul. And like I said, I'm not too surprised because European games, these things happen. The decisions are heavily favor the home team. Hopefully, we get that same benefit when we play at the Emirates next week, right? But in my opinion, the referee showed his weakness today. Um, wrapping up this video, guys. So, like I said, I was really pleased. I think it was one of our better performances over the last few weeks. Nothing to really be excited about because it's still halftime in the tie. We need to finish the job at the Emirates. I want to shout out, like I said, Declan Rice to me was my man of the match. Saliba and Gabriel, as always, as usual, rock solid. In Capier, man, this guy, he has a shot of being our player of the season. This guy has been a revelation. Defensively, one of the best right backs in the world, no doubt about it. Left backs, I should say. And Capier locks it down. He's so strong, so solid. One on one, he's just a beast, right? I mean, he can improve a lot when it comes to attacking and creating chances and being the complete fullback. But defensively, he's top of his game. All right. Final verdict to wrap up this video, guys. Really good performance. I think we will progress to the final. We're gonna beat Atletico next week, right? Um, we could have won today, but let's look at it glass half full. We got a solid draw. We showed that we could be the better team because we are the better team, and we have a very good chance to progress into the next round. We just have to finish the job at home next week. We'd love to get your thoughts, your take on the game today. Was it a penalty? Did we get robbed? Was the referee weak? Did he make the right decision? Was it even a penalty on Ben White? Right. Of course, we know in Europe it was, but it is, but in England it's probably not called. Um, did you enjoy the game? Was it a good watch? In my opinion, it was typical Arsenal, just a little bit better, but attacking wise, we lack the quality, which is why I believe we need an upgrade in our front line. We need several signings to really compete with the best of the best in Europe from an attacking perspective. But that's for another show, right? Let's park that for now. Um, but yeah, love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't yet, click on the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave us your thoughts below. Until next time, bye for now.